good right now.
All right, bro. So welcome back. Another episode of the Clutch Mindset Podcast.
Sir.
So I'm here with my guy, Chris, Wet Ryan, the Thor of the Bronx, as they say. Yeah, bro. If I sound a little bit weird, I just got my Invisalign in. So if I sound like Sammy Sprinklers from Benchwarmer, forgive me.
No, you sound great.
Yeah, good. Here. So today you brought up a good topic during the week, and I'm super interested on what you have to say about team chemistry, especially of your background being a sports psychologist. I would love to see like what you've done with your team. I know I have a bunch of personal stories of good and bad things that happen with team chemistry. So just want you to first like define like what is team chemistry for you?
Team chemistry is when a group of individuals with the same goals support each other and hold each other accountable and cheer for each other. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So,
And you recently saw a lot of success with your football team. They just won the city championship, flag football. So what are some things that you can apply that go straight into that, team chemistry topic?
I think if we're just talking about my football team, I think the team were already friends and we didn't have expectations to really start the season. We kind of just went in being like, okay, let's just do our best. Let's follow the game plan. We had a lot of people that never really played the sport before, so no one had the ego. And then everyone knew who the guys were in certain positions, and they just challenged each other and got each other better. And each week, everyone showed up. Everyone came together. Everyone kind of supported each other. Everyone made each other better. And there was like a lot of love. Even when we messed up, they would just say on the field, like, all right, the next play, the next play, the next play. And they had such a next play mentality that it just kind of resonated throughout the team. Everyone had so much respect for each other. We all had the same values when it came to practicing, when it came to winning games. I think they all bought in early and they trusted me and I trusted them. And I thought there was just like such an easy, fun season, and the unexpected happened. So it was great.
Oh, was there anything you did to like build that trust between you and your players?
I think the returners we already had that trust from previous years, and if weren't returners, they were all new guys who were friends with the returners.
Gotcha.
So they believed in me. And then I think when it comes to sports, it's definitely as a coach trying to build respect. I think they have to see that it works. They have to see the success of everything that's happening. And then they're like, wow, this really works.
Yeah.
And so whether it's done in practice, when you're doing like game situation and you're like, oh, we're succeeding. Or when a kind of group of people are like, everyone's kind of doing their part, you're like, oh, wow, we're doing a lot better than I thought. And then it all becomes like, I'm worried about myself, right? Like if you focus on you and you become the best player you can be, now you're elevating the team, and now you just keep getting better, and that's pushing other people to get better.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. I mean, I kind of, even with like my teams, like I try to build that relationship between the player and the coach, right? Sometimes I even try to put like the coach thing aside. Yeah, I'm a player, but at the end of the day, we're both human beings, right? Like I genuinely want you to do well in your sport, but also genuinely want you to do well in life, right? So I try to make that felt with all my players as much as possible, right? I tell them, there's only going to be 3 people that want you to succeed in the sport. It's going to be, of course, your parents, your mom, your dad, and then that third person is going to be me, right? No one's going to want you to succeed as much as I do, being the fact that like you're my player. And then, like even with the guys that I train, there's a bunch of guys that I train that when the game starts, they might be on the opposite side of the field. I always joke around. I was like, yeah, I'm working with this kid so he can go 3 for 3 against my own team, So it's just like I love coaching kids in that academic environment, especially in schools, because it's like I value education so much but now it's like the best of both worlds, right? Now I can focus on your athletic side and your academic side. And you could ask any player, like I'm always like, listen, if you ever need help, like in anything, just let me know, right? Like now there's juniors, seniors, they're thinking about, they're concerned about getting recruitment and commitments. Like I can't give you a free scholarship, right? I don't have the power to just call a coach and be like, here's a scholarship. But like you need a video, you need a recruitment video, let's get it done. You need some data, you need some tracking data, let's go. Right, you need an email, let's work on it together. And there's a lot of different ways that we can provide help, and that's one thing that I'd let know my players as well. I mean, even to the extent of like media day, right? Like I make content and all that stuff. Like those little things that go a long way. Like every kid now, they want a media day, right? Instead of going to the school and say like, hey, like do you have a budget for this? And maybe they don't. All right, the school doesn't have a budget. Let's do it ourselves. I got a camera. My assistant coaches got some gear too. Just do the media day ourselves. And I do get that feeling of being around certain players, and they're like grateful. They can feel like, all right, this dude cares for me, and I feel the same way as well. I can feel that the kid and the players themselves knows like, all right, Ryan cares for a lot of my success. So, I mean, I don't think that's something like I intentionally do for like team chemistry. But I know like it transitions to the field or transitions to practice or like the whole team dynamic where it does feel like a family.
And I get that vibe when I see you coach, when I go to the bubble, when I see you around the players that you trained, because you hit the nail on the head. The number one thing is, as a coach, just trying to build chemistry with any player, they have to know that you care, right? It can't be transactional, right? It has to be transformational. Right, so it's not like if you score 20 points or you hit 3 home runs, now you're my favorite. It's my goal is to make you or help you become the best young man that you can be, right? The best person you could be. Sports aside, that's the number one goal. And now it's, what do you need? How can I help you? How can I help you get better in the sport? How can I help you get better in school? How can I do that? When you care about more than just the stats, that's you building relationships with your players, right? So maybe you're good with your players, but now the hardest part is making your players good with your players.
Yeah.
And, you deal with ego, maybe some prima donnas, maybe kids that just have like low self-confidence within themselves. And that is the hardest part to build, right? Having a team that supports one another even when a mistake happens or when a situation happens is crucial, right? There's 1,000 things that you could do for your team to help build that. Because what I always say to every team I ever coached, to every team I ever worked with, is you could show me a happy, loving team when they're winning, but show me a team when they're losing, and I could tell you everything you ever needed to know about that team in that 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. When the back's against the wall or if they're getting blown out, how's the relationship with the coach? How's the relationship with the players? How's the mindset? You could find out all that happening in those minutes when things aren't going your way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then, it's funny that you brought it up as well, because, stickball, like now you're playing stickball. Like I've been playing for, I guess, 3 seasons now, but like the legacy team, it's a good example of like that team chemistry. Like we are legitimately like really good friends. If not, like we call ourselves brothers. And that's the same thing that I thought about legacy, like looking back outside, like taking myself outside of the team. We win a lot, right? In the league, we win a lot. We travel, we win. But when there's certain bumpy areas, that's when I was like sitting back like, all right, let's see what we're really made of, because we've achieved so much success that now let's see how we deal with a little bit of failure. Like we didn't win, 3 out of the, 4 out of the 4 championships, or we didn't win this championship. We won a couple, right? We won 2 championships this past season, but we could have, we were aiming for all 4.
But it's not going to happen next year because the Diamondbacks are coming.
Yeah. But that, that's it. Your team is a great example as well, right? Because you join in, and the first thing you said is like how easily they made you feel welcome to that team, right? And not only feel welcome, but you perform very, very, you perform pretty damn good for your first season out there. So like those are certain dynamics, and we can even see like on the boulevard, we can see those teams that are a struggle. And what's the common thing? Like they're always arguing with each other, they're always yelling at each other. Like you can see, and that's so interesting to see because it's not even it's not baseball, it's not basketball. It's like it's like a rec sport, right?
Recreational sport,
right? So it's so interesting to see that part of it. But it's also interesting. Like I've seen players in my team that they're captains or young captains, and what they have taken amongst themselves to like gel our team a little bit better, right? One thing that Legacy has done this year was like, all right, instead of, all right, I'm not going to tell Chris, Chris is our everyday starter, third baseman, but this game he's not going to start for whatever reason, right? Maybe they want to give somebody a chance or whatever the case is. Instead of like you being surprised that you're not going to start, AJ, Cheyenne, Davey, they'll call you or, speak to you at a game, say, listen, like, this is our plan. This is how we're going to go about it. And I feel the same way with baseball. Like I never understood the concept of, when you're starting, when the lineup is on the board, at least, for me, like, that's my opinion. Like I never understood of, all right, yeah, everyone should prepare as if they're starting, but like you not knowing you're going to start until like the lineup is on the board is kind of like whack, right? Because what if you thought you were going to be that guy starting? You're mentally preparing yourself, you're physically preparing yourself, and all of a sudden you're like, damn, like, why am I not playing? And I mean, at least for me, the first thing that's going to pop in your head is like, what did I do wrong? And it probably isn't even anything wrong. It could just be like, this coach, today I want to give this guy a shot. I want to see what he can bring to the table. So instead of you addressing that player, letting them know ahead of time, like the whole concept of this is a lineup, this is who's starting, I've never been a fan of. And that's something like I do differently now. Like I'll go up to a kid and say like, listen, today you're not going to start, but I need you to be ready off the bench. It's just plain and simple. Like you didn't do anything wrong. We want to give someone else a shot. You want to see how this plays, but I need you to be ready off the bench. Whether you're going to be a pinch runner, pinch hitter, defensive specialist, whatever the case is, out the pen. This is my plan for you. And I make that plan very clear so that, listen, is the kid right for being on the bench and like sulking because he's not playing? No, but I do understand as a former player, like those thoughts that creep in your head of like, wow, I'm not playing today. Why? Like I have no idea why. And then, to turn that on when the coaches need it is not the easiest thing. Like, do you agree with that or?
Yeah, I think kind of what you said is it's like just keeping an open communication. Sometimes when you're in a game or as a coach, like when you're in the middle of the game, you don't always think about what the player's feeling because you have a job, right? In the moment during the game, your job is to kind of put the best people in the best positions possible. So, if they're like an everyday starter or they start most of the time and you're like, I'm going to go with someone else, I feel like that's when you give that kind of open communication because, I don't want you to feel bad about yourself, or especially if I've seen if they didn't have like the best game the game before and then you sit them and all that happens so much. I think as a coach to build that open dialogue instead of just saying like you're not playing because you didn't perform last game, but like I want to see a different look, but be ready for a pinch hit, be ready for a sub. He's going to play 3 innings, you're going to play the next 3 or 4. You might be coming into pitch today, so you might not be out in the outfield or first base. I want you to be really focused on that. I think keeping open dialogue is always important, especially when you're trying to build a team in communication, building team chemistry, because communication is everything. Everyone, you want to know what's going on. You need to know what's going on, and the kids that you're coaching need to feel comfortable coming to you. Always kind of. If they're not going to you and asking you something or talking to you, that means they might be afraid of you. Yeah. And as a coach, especially for younger people, you don't want that. You want them to feel confident enough to be like, hey, coach, why didn't I get in? Or, hey, coach, is there a reason I'm not starting? Maybe right after you see the lineup is not the best time to ask the coach that.
Yeah.
But post-game, be like, hey, is there a reason why I might have not gotten in? Is there a reason? How can I get more minutes? How can I play more innings? How can I get this spot? And the coach has to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right? You're putting them on the spot, but it's also, if you have that relationship, it's not in a form of disrespect. It's saying, hey, we need you to hit a little bit better. You're doing this, you're doing that. Let's work on it and practice.
Yeah.
Or, Ryan has the hot hand today. Ryan, he's great defensively. This is a great hitting team. And so this is my thought process behind you not playing.
Yeah.
Or Ryan's been hitting lately. I think keeping that open dialogue is crucial to building trust. And without trust, there is no team.
Yeah.
Right? Because the players have to trust you as a coach, and you have to trust your players. I tell players all the time, coaches don't put in people they don't trust. And what are you doing to gain that trust? Oh, I'm showing up to practice. That's cool, but what are you doing? How hard are you going in practice?
Yeah.
What is your work ethic like? How are you as a teammate? How is your training? And then when you are in the game, are you upset? Are you going into the game upset that you weren't starting or playing, or are you zoned in and what's happening?
Yeah. And I think that's a big part of growth, because it wasn't, I've been in situations in high school where it wasn't, maybe not so much clear the role, but I wasn't clear of certain decisions. And, my dad was never the type where he was going to at any point was going to talk to the coach for me, at any point. So, he was kind of listen, you can pull the coach aside, try to talk to him, or figure it out, work yourself out of this hole, right? Whether you're not playing because you're not performing well, or, you're not, whatever the case is. And I always commend them for that, right? And then I never did it in high school. I figured myself out, whether it's all right, well, I just got to hit better, play better, or put myself in a situation where there's undoubtedly I'm starting. But it wasn't really until college where I was you know what, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that animosity with my head coach. I don't even want to put the thought anymore of well, I'm not playing because the coach doesn't like me. It was later towards my sophomore, junior year where I finally sat with my head coach in college and sat in his office and was what's, what, let me know, what's the plan? What are you seeing differently? Because I think I'm doing this, but maybe you're thinking even that perspective might be different. So at least let me know. Give me an idea. Give me an idea of what do you do like from my skill set, what you don't like from my skill set. And what do you think I can improve on, right? Because now I have a plan. Right now it's all right, well, Ryan, you need to get a little bit stronger. All right, cool. Now I can, focus on gaining some mass. Your arm needs to get a little bit stronger. All right, I understand that. So now I can focus on, long tossing a little bit more, getting my arm up, getting, whatever the case is. Little things all right, maybe, I didn't like your approach. You're hitting too much pop-ups. All right, so maybe I could now change my approach in the box a little bit where I go in. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, you have to mold your game towards what your coach wants, right? He's going to be set on what he thinks it's going to help the team succeed. And you're a player. You're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to mold a little bit towards that. So it does take a lot, right? That aspect of it does take a lot. And I try to tell players all the time, maybe sit with your coach. Don't do it right after the game or before the game, but try to see hey, coach, after practice, can we talk? And I hope the coach does okay, right? Because you definitely never want that, right? You never want the player to be afraid of the coach, right? And or you don't want your players to think that you don't like them either, which I think that's a big aspect of communication and trust. So
yeah, I think coaches specifically, sometimes you have coaches that feel I don't owe anyone anything. I'm the coach and what I say goes. And that might be true, but you also have to understand who you're dealing with and what your team is dealing with. And so, like you said, it took you, 5 years to finally say something to a coach.
Yeah.
Right. And then once you found out, you worked on it and probably played, But if you don't know what's going on, if you're a coach not doing a of the year report when one-on-one with your athlete, not doing a post. Like, how do you think the season went? What do you feel like you need to get better on? This is what I'm seeing. This is what I feel like you need to get better on. If you're not doing that, you're hurting your own self as a coach, because your players aren't going to get better because they don't know what they're doing wrong. One, because they may not be asking you. Two, you're not being fully open with them and telling them, hey, you had a good season, but you need to hit X, Y, and Z. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I think that's where some programs fall short, when there isn't that open dialogue and you just expect your athlete to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, even to the extent of like the Game Changer stuff, right? Like I try to use Game Changer as much as I can, like during the season, because it's always, I've had a handful of times where like a parent comes up to like whether myself or the head coach, and it's like why isn't my son playing? And I'm like, listen, your son's a great kid. He's just struggling a little bit. Like there's no secret to it. Like he just needs to play a little bit better, right? He needs to play a little bit defensively and needs to play a little bit better offensively. And, right now we're in a part of the season where we need to put the best line out there. His chance will come. Like he should continue coming to practices. He should continue, working hard, because there's been many times in the season where myself and the head coach is like, all right, let's give this kid a chance. Like he shows up to everything. He comes to every practice. He's carrying equipment when no one asks him to and all that stuff. So he's buying into that part. Let's give him a shot.
Culture guy.
Yeah. We call it program guy. We call it like a program guy, right? Like he's a program guy, always just trying to like, all right, he understands that, all right, maybe he's not there yet, but he's trying to do every little aspect.
Does. Program guys are the best guys.
Yes, for sure. I mean, that's something that even like going to Mount, I didn't start that. Like that part of the culture, that wasn't me. I got into that culture and I'm grateful for it. But like the program first, like, are you a program guy or like, are you a selfish guy? So that's something that, I mean, I've seen, like, I think Mount has been successful these past couple of years. And I'm not taking credit for it. Like I said, I just jumped into that. And those kids that when I came in, when they were, sophomores, juniors, seniors of the team, that was something already there. Like, program, you got to put the program first. And teams that put program first, and players that put programs first, and teams that put the program first, like, it just, sets a strong standard for success. And even when things kind of go south a little bit, that kind of helps navigate waters during like those tough times.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of get into that because program first, they believe in the core values of the program. And I think it's so important to establish team goals, individual goals, and like what are the expectations of the season.
Yeah.
So before every season, I actually did this yesterday with the basketball team. We sat in a classroom and we asked what are expectations. And of course, every expectation is win a championship. With that being said, boom, right? Of course, that's everyone's goal. Now, you have a little bubble in championship. What are the ways, how are we getting there, right? What are some values that we have to have in order to get to this goal? That's all I tell them, name them, make like a whole web championship. Then we talk about showing up. Yes. Showing up on time. Yes. Working hard. What does working hard look like? Right? So it's really asking your players to create their own, what they expect from themselves.
Yeah.
And what they expect from their teammates. And then I ask, who's going to be the person to hold them accountable? Right? You show up late to practice. Is your teammate going to be the one? You can't show up late to practice, right? Or does the coach have to always correct the behavior? Or the coach doesn't have to correct the behavior. Someone could take care of it. Or you messed up, which, things happen. You show up and you already start running, or you already start stretching, or you send that text message, hey, train's running late, or, oh, I'm so sorry, coach, I overslept. Building a culture of accountability, building a culture of ownership. One of my players said ownership. I was like, yes, thank you. What's ownership, right? And then he went on to say that ownership isn't just being accountable for the mistakes, but the actions to do post the mistake. Because I could say, my bad, but when there's no action afterwards, are you really taking ownership? And I was just like, yes, like that is one. I was like, this is a brilliant thing to say as a high school student. And I love that. If we could all do that, we could all kind of move forward with any loss or with any win. And we could build that championship with ownership and with accountability. And we kind of just branched off that.
Yeah.
And it was a good meeting. But I've worked with teams where, we play a lot of like games just to like get to know one another. I worked with a basketball team in Jersey where I got them a basketball and we just wrote the core values and what's the expectations. And every game they gave it to a player that exemplified all those values and the culture. Doesn't mean that the person that scored 30, 40 points, it was who was, the respect, the most, the best team player, the one that had the most support, the one that was hustling nonstop, diving on the floor for the basketball, this and that. And every player gets it if they exemplify.
Yeah.
And I think doing that, and then they get to hold the ball. That's their ball until the next game, and then they have to give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's not even the coach that's saying you're the player of the game. It's the team or the person that exemplified that is giving it to another teammate.
Yeah.
And it's how amazing is that?
Yeah.
Right? Like the coach isn't picking out you yourself. You're like, you exemplify everything that I want to be, or that this program is.
Yeah.
Here's the ball. This is your ball. Now you pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah. I'm always a fan of like systems, right? Like one of the things I've learned at some of these conventions is like the plans, right? The diagrams, the booklets that they create for their players so they could all be on the same page. I mean, even a lot of these things from like great Division I schools like have a lot of their resources available online, and you can see like, all right, let's look at Wake Forest core values, right? And it could be the football team, their baseball team, whatever team it is. But it's super in depth, right? It's like that's like the easiest way for a coach to express what they expect for a season. And sometimes, I know it's like an extra step, right? Sometimes it looks kind of like redundant, but at a certain point as a coach, right, you can either keep on repeating yourself or like, listen, this is what we spoke about in the beginning of the season. Like once why is he reading the playbook so big in the NFL, right? Like why are there so many stories of he can't read a playbook, right? It's because the guy just doesn't want to put in the effort to buy into the program to like read the playbook. I think there's like even a story of like the playbook being like a trick where if you rewrite it, something like that. Like I don't remember what the specific story, but it was like, when it gets to the end of the page, if you got to the end of the page, like, oh, this wasn't even like a real playbook. So you would have to approach the coach. And then there'll be players out there that's like, oh yeah, I read the playbook. I'm like, oh, but did you? Because if you would have read it, you would have gotten to this page and this page. So I think those systematic things are like important. And then also like if you could do that at a high school level, it really prepares a kid for like whatever college they go to, right? Is every college doing that? No, but if a kid gets a chance to like get to like a really good college program, they probably are doing that, right? I mean, I've seen it like when I had a chance to go like St. John's dugout for a lot of different events. Like you can see like St. John's has like papers on the dugout, like the values of what it takes to be part of this team, and I'm sure other programs are doing the same thing. So that's super important for setting like standards and creating systems and expectations for your team, whether like they're winning or losing. Like long term, it just makes things a lot better for that program. So we've been talking about a lot of like good stuff. What are some things that are like create that negative chemistry amongst the team? Like I know you mentioned like ego and stuff like that.
Yeah, negative attitudes. I think negative attitudes, negative talk always kills everything. It's like a cancer and it spreads.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. And most of the time it comes from the bench guy. And then if the bench is negative or a cancer and it's like, oh, I'm better than him, why is he playing? That kind of just like spreads like wildfire. because then everyone kind of starts to feel that way. Or even, people on the field are like, why is this person in, this and that, negative talk. Or if you have like a captain who kind of gets away with anything just because they're good, that's like a huge deal breaker.
Yeah.
And they just do whatever they want. That could also lead to negative programming. I think those guys who are exceptional on your team or program, or like the guy, they have to be the ones that the coach holds the most accountable, because the people under him a lot of times won't, because, oh, he's the star, he's the person, or she's the star, she's the person. Those people are the ones that the coach has to bring down to earth and be the hardest on. And then they have to be the leaders too, right? Those captain guys, if they're only for them, it could get rough. It could be a real cancerous situation because they're not bought in, or they think they're too good. Those type of attitudes and egos could really disrupt a program and hurt the program in so many ways. You might think like this is your year. You have like such great players and you have great athletes. But if their ego's in the way, or they think they're better than what they are, it goes downhill.
Yeah.
I've coached really good athletes, like really good teams, where I'm like, wow, we might be really good. And the only team to win is the team that's the least athletic, but they were the most mentally sound and the most together.
Yeah.
That's the team that wins. Doesn't have to be the sick athlete. It's the team that uplifts, and it's the team that supports, and it's this team that stays together through adversity and not point fingers and blame. Oh, it's because you shot the shot. Oh, it's because you struck out, right? Pointing is the weakest form of communication.
Yeah.
And when your players start to do that, that's when you have to like do your best to shut it down completely. Because once the finger pointing starts, it goes very, very wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I know with teams that I played for, teams that I coached for, like regardless of talent, once I start seeing like players being like small factions, right? Like you can always see this group of guys on this side of the field and this group of guys on this side of the field. Like that's always a red flag for me, right? Because I've been in teams that very talented teams that we probably should have gone a lot further than what we did. Start those little factions and little groups, right? Little cliques, instead of being together, right? And you can feel that, you can see it, you can feel it during games, you can feel it during practices, you can feel it during like group outings and stuff like that. You can feel it. I've never been a part of a team that, like, on the wins and losses columns, we're on the better half of that, right? Even on like the coaching side. Once you start seeing, it could be a talented team, right? A team that like, dude, we could probably, like you said, we could probably do some work. But once you start seeing like those factions, it's always a red flag. And I try, like, not saying I do have a solution yet for that, but you can always like, listen, I've been there where I'm like, all right, listen, you guys, every time I look, like you guys are always together. You guys gotta like probably spread out, even to the point where I even try like, all right, you're going to be with this, you're going to, you're here for this drill, you're here for that drill, you're here for this drill, just to like mend that a little bit and break off those factions and those cliques a little bit. Because I mean, it could not even be in a malicious way, right? But it could just be natural, right? Maybe same class, same travel team. They've been playing together for a while, but still, it's never like one cohesive group. Those aspects of things are never, ever ending in like in a positive note.
I can help you with that. I think the number one thing is when you do have those cliques, I think you have to put a fun activity together for those people to be together instead of just drills where it's just like work and I'm worrying about yourself. Like, think of some fun activities that you could do. One that I really always enjoy that I do as like an icebreaker is called the Entourage. And what that is, it's just rock, paper, scissors. And so me and you face each other. If I beat you, now you're my entourage. So you have to cheer me on.
Gotcha.
Right? And then we go player to player. Everyone just faces each other. And if you lose, so now you have, when it's down to the two people, now you have 20 guys behind you, they have 20 guys behind him, and you're just like going. And it's what I like about it is because you might have lost, but now you're a part of this person's team. And their win is your win because that's who you're representing.
Right.
And that's just one of a few fun games that I like to play. There's also one where you have a string and you have like plastic cups, like red Solo cups, and you have to make a pyramid, or you have to build like a 3-2-1. But the string is connected by the cup is connected by 5 pieces of string. Right? They're all tied around. And so you have to use the string to set it up. So it's kind of building communication, building different, like who's the leader in the group. Like you're going to find out real quick who's the leader, who's going to communicate.
Yeah.
Or like a web where everyone kind of holds hands and it's just like all discombobulated. So it's like how you're going to find your clear vocal leader by, okay, now you have to go through here and do this. You know, if everyone puts their hands in the middle and they're all tangled. So just a couple of like fun things where you're taking the day off from focusing on yourself and focusing on drills where you could really kind of build that leadership. And so even if you're still going to have the click, but now the click's going to be like, hey, what's up? Like, hey, come get reps with us. And that's what you kind of want to build.
Yeah, that's interesting. I definitely like that Rob Peterson just one. So that's always a fun one. I definitely give it a shot. And then even on like you mentioned like the pointing fingers thing. You know, as a coach, you definitely want players to hold other players accountable for their actions. But I always say like the delivery should be a lot different than like the aggressive delivery, right? So it's like, all right, well, if a player did make a mistake or like an error, like of a physical error or whatever the case is, mental error, instead of like you reaming down that player's throat, like yelling at them on the field, embarrassing them in front of the other team or in front of your team, like you can simply pull that player aside and even into like being serious, like, listen, like we need you to step up. Right? We need you to step up and make these plays. You're gonna be there. You're gonna be the starting infielder. You're gonna be the starting pitcher. You know, our catcher, whatever the case is, or quarterback, whatever the case is. No, we need you to step up. Like, I know you can play better than that. And that's sometimes like when you hear from the coach, it's cool. But when another player is doing it, you can feel that like, damn, like this guy does believe in my skill set. And I'm kind of like maybe letting him down a little bit. But it's completely different than like you going full blown force, like cursing at the player, like, come on, bro, like gotta make that damn play, like all that stuff. Like there's you can say the same message, but in a different delivery that doesn't result in like two players like wanting to smack the shit out of each other, right? Because like at a certain point, like, bro, I'm not gonna let this dude yell at me like that. No, right?
No.
So it's just the delivery of it that I've learned through. I remember coaching like, why are you? We're in pregame warmups, and we asked you to call this player. Like, why are you shouting him out in front of the other team? Like, why are you embarrassing him in front of the other team? Just pull him to the side. Like, run towards him and pull him over to the side. Like, you're embarrassing him in front of the other team. And that maybe does not affect players' performance at that moment, but it definitely gives a perspective of the whole entire team that, you know, it's giving an advantage towards the other team.
Yeah, because you're seeing the balance. Like, wow, this guy's really yelling at his teammate right now. They're lost all control. It's a mess. But even then, as coaches, I have the conversation every year before every sport. Not because just try to bring the ego a little down. It's right because there's always going to be one person that gets on somebody because they missed or they struck out. Whatever. It happens every year, no matter what. It's like, come on, man. Like, even if it's not full on attack mode. And before every season, I just go, who has ever played a perfect game? And of course, there's like one kid trying to be funny and raises his hand. No one raises their hand. And I tell them, mistakes are always going to happen. They're inevitable. Errors are going to happen. You striking out, you taking a pitch that you shouldn't have took, a base running mistake. There's 1,000 things that are you're going to miss a shot. You're going to mess up. Everyone here has messed up at least once before. And even as a coach, I've messed up. maybe I did the wrong sub, or I made the wrong call, or this and that. I've messed up too. The more important thing is, are we learning from those mistakes, and are we supporting each other after the mistake? Because mistakes are contagious. Errors are contagious. People get frustrated. And so it just kind of builds. But is it, I do next shot, and then you keep it going where you limit the mistake? Or are you going to be frustrated for doing something that you had? Are you getting frustrated over something you don't have control over? You can't control the person that made the mistake. And now you're so frustrated, you're going to make the mistake. And that's how it builds. That's how the errors build. And you just have to support. Be like, all right, bro, next play. All right, man, next time you're going to get it. Because when you feel that pressure, like I messed up, now I got to step up, that's when like it all kind of crumbles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then what you said as well, like the letting a coach allowing like the best player of the team to do whatever they want, right? And the rules not apply to everybody on the team is like a death sentence. Like I've seen it as a coach already, and I've experienced it as a player. Like I've been a part of a team where we started off the season like borderline undefeated. Our offense was like nationally ranked. And then, because of the fact that a coach lets the player do whatever he wants because he's the best player in the team, like we basically choked. Like we didn't even make it to like the playoffs, because by the time the season ended, like everyone legitimately hated each other. Like it was the most wild, like 30 for 30 E60, like must be studied, like should be in every sports psychology case study in, every class. Because imagine like a team that collectively was batting like 330, 340, 350, like crazy, like the lowest ERA, all the above. And we started off the season undefeated. Like I think it was like 7-0 before we even saw our first loss. And it just went all downhill. And it was just because like the coach was allowing like the best player. And was he elite? Yeah, he was. Right. But it would have been nice if he was elite and like not a dickhead. But, he was elite, arrogant, trying to get in front of, like getting in between certain players' relationships and all that stuff. And it showed big time. Like we choked. Like we didn't even make it to the playoffs. And it was just like, bro, how are we the best? Like we were the best offensive team and we freaking choked. And even as a coach, man, I've seen it firsthand where teams make it to the championships, right? At the high school level, make it to the championships. And because, the rules clearly didn't apply for everybody on the team, and the team choked. The team choked at the highest level when, of the championship. Like those two experiences that I had in my life was, if I ever allow that to happen, then I really got to evaluate what I want to do as a coach, because that is almost like a death sentence towards like success. Is like a lot. Like the rules have to, regardless of how good that player is, everyone has to abide by it. Like the best player in the team, the worst player in the team, like it applies to everybody.
I have a friend that's a coach, and every year he gets his like captain, and they like talk about a situation where, just to set the tone, where he purposely throws him out of practice. And he's just like, you're going to do something, and I'm just going to make an example out of you, because I know you're going to do something foolish every year. And it'll be tryouts, or it'll be like the first practice where this is supposed to be like the captain or like the main guy. And he goes, you know what? Get out. And just kicks him out. And so he just kind of sets the tone from day one, like, oh, if this is how you're going to treat him out of all people, I know I have to be on my thing, because I can't take it easy. But accountability is huge. It's huge. And and you need a team that has the same goals, and you need like a group goal, and you need a team that believes in one another and that they believe in themselves, and a coach that also believes in everyone and in the program. So it's hard to get so many personalities on the same page. But when you do, it's always a special season. When you have a team right from the jump that all has the same goals and they believe in one another, or they just like trust, they just give them a chance to trust them, anything, doesn't matter what team you have, anything is possible. You just need to get to that point every year. Just get to the playoffs. The goal is just get to the playoffs. We don't have to be the best team all season. We just have to be good enough to get into the playoffs. And then over that time, you're building the belief that, yeah, we could beat anybody.
Yeah.
It's a season long process, right? If you're the best in the beginning and you just get that confidence and the confidence becomes arrogance and you don't come back down, it's really hard to keep that momentum going into the playoffs because there's an underdog that's way more hungry than you. Yeah. And I think having people focus, that's the goal. You might have won 10 games, but you really didn't accomplish anything.
Yeah.
Cool, you're the 1 seed, but you still got to win in the playoffs, right? You accomplished regular season stuff, but regular season stuff doesn't get recognition or banner or whatever you want, right? The goal is the championship. They allow 6 teams in, 8 teams in, 15 teams in. Are you going to be one of the 15? Great. Your regular season goal has been accomplished. Now you're in the playoffs. Doesn't matter where you are. You just got there. Everyone starts 0-0. Who cares? Are you the best team when playoffs start?
Yep.
That is literally the only thing that matters. That's why everyone loves college sports. That's why everyone loves playoffs, right? The underdog. It's way more exciting, right? Think about all the underdog runs, right? March Madness. When a 16th seed knocks out a 1 seed or a 5th, Lehigh knocked out Duke years ago. Come on, what's not to love about it?
Yeah.
Right? You got to the point, you had an opportunity to play on a high level. You know that you can play on a high level. You know your team is better than what the regular season showed. And now you get to play a top team and knock them out. There's something poetic and beautiful about that, right? But it only comes from the belief in one another. If you have a team that don't believe in one another, you're not really going far in anything, So it really starts there, and you building that team chemistry, doing activities with one another, and actually developing a care for one another.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And then I know with a lot of the upperclassmen too, I mean, as a varsity coach, majority of our practices are consisted of seniors, juniors, maybe a little bit of sophomores, but I try to sit with my seniors early. Listen, I'm not asking you to be the mic drop of the team, whether you're going to be the starter or not. All I'm asking you is just take charge, right? This is your last year. Just be a great role model to these players because you can leave a legacy. Every year, it doesn't have to necessarily be it'll be great if you can leave here and then you can say, yeah, this is the championship we won, or we made it to the playoffs and the program never did this and I'm part of that. But you can always leave a legacy where you're continuing the tradition of program first, right? Especially at Mount where I am today. It's you're a senior, right? Just take charge. You know this is wrong, right? Sit back, right? It's 3:00. We're not even on the line yet. Do you think that's right? No, coach, I think that's wrong. All right, so do something about it. You want me to be that guy all the time? You want me to yell at, I'm not asking you to yell at anybody, but just step up. All right, this is it. You're gonna leave. Leave with a legacy so that people can say, damn, this guy was actually a great leader. He was a leader of a team, and then I want to do the same thing, right? I want to do the same thing next year. So now when that junior is a senior, now he's taking charge of the program. Right now he's leaving imprint. So then when he graduates, it's the same cycle, right? You can leave a legacy. Of course, everybody wants to leave with a winning legacy, but you can leave with a legacy a lot deeper than just winning. Yeah.
Right? I played with a lot of guys that when they graduated, I'm man, this dude was a great player and he was a great person. He was a great leader. And to this point where now when I see there's certain guys that want to be catchers, I played with some really great catchers in my life.
Yeah.
Right, I played with great catchers in high school.
Same.
I played with great catchers in college. So it's those are the quarterbacks of the team. Vocally taking charge of the defense, vocally taking charge of when we have to get on the line, when we have to work out, when we got to sprint. So when guys now want to be catchers, I never caught in my life
but damn, like I know some really good catchers, and like that's the standard that I have. So like you could leave that legacy, right, in someone's life by just being a great leader. And that's what it goes back to the point, like just establishing those roles, right? Like it goes deeper than your role being like the starter shortstop or starting second baseman. Like outside of like playing wise, this is your role on the team. Like maybe you're not the captain, but at the end of the day, like you're a senior, you have seniority. So this is what I expect from you. Now, whether you decide to like take that and run with it, it's a different story. But when you do take it and run with it, like you can literally motivate. They could be a freshman watching you play. You don't even know about it, and they're just like admiring like what you do on the field.
Yeah, no, it's true. Because I was talking to Jay about it in the bubble. I was like, Jay was my captain when I was a junior, and that team was the most fun I've ever had playing baseball. Like, because they were all really close, and they didn't just look at us as like under them. We used to go to the movies together. We would like do something like every weekend. And I think we were the last seed in the Catholic school playoffs. And we went all the way to the quarterfinals when we probably shouldn't have even been there.
Yeah.
And I think we ended up losing to like Malloy, but it's Staten Island. But though I don't even remember my senior year, but like I remember my junior year. And I remember all the fun things we did to build that team chemistry and just being just like underdogs throughout the whole season and putting together wins and just kind of sticking together and supporting one another. I always remember that because we weren't like high up on the coaches, but we knew what we could do collectively, and we knew our strengths and we knew our weaknesses, and we just balled out together. And that was always like a super fun season that I'll always keep in the back of my head, and which as a coach, and I always try to give to my players, like, I always try to talk about senior leadership or just leadership, period. It doesn't have to come from a senior, because like, the players when you meet them, like, this guy is a leader. I've known freshmen that are seniors now that were always the leader. Didn't even matter if they were a freshman or not, right? Because how they hold themselves. And that's what you kind of just you look forward to in the season, coaching and putting together stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how you mentioned Jay, because Jay is a great example. Like, I used to look up to Jay. Like, we rolled together with a lot of the trainings. My right-hand man of a lot of the training things I do now, and I'm super grateful for that. But, like, my amateur career, like, I always looked up to Jay, right? Like, through, training together, because Jay was, like, my body type, right? We were, like, the same height.
He just had so much discipline.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people with maybe lack of, or they do have it, but like the way he just carried.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's a big reason why I went to Purchase, right? Because I kind of was like, I was super naive in the recruitment process. Like, I had some decisions and choices, but I was kind of like, all right, whatever. Like, if this guy is here and I used to look up to him for a long period of time, then all right, like maybe he's like a sign. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And then he ended up being a captain of the team as well. And then I always bring him up where like he was a captain of the team. JD like never stormed, right? He always commuted, right? And it was, if we had 5 a.m. lifts, that man must have been up at like 4 o'clock, maybe like 3:30, up 3:30 in the morning to like drive to Purchase every day. Whether it's everyday lifts, or then we finish practice at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, he's driving back home. So, that's another thing, right? Like that discipline and that work ethic as a like captain, as a leader, is why I always like looked up to him as a player. And then that's the, my point I'm making too, like that legacy that you can leave for someone that, you might not even think is like looking up to you. And I'm grateful that to this day, like we're working together, which is awesome. But I tell people all the time, like this guy was like my captain. He was like my college captain. I looked up to him. Like this, a handful of dudes, I'm like, they're like, I used to look up to you, bro. Like, at that young, like I used to look up to you, bro. Like, you're a big reason to like why, like I'm playing, I play ball the way I am. And they laugh about it, but it's like true. Like sometimes you don't even think about like you just being like, you just leaving a legacy far beyond just winning and losing, just trying to, be a great person, being a captain, like causing that like big, great positive chemistry amongst your team.
Yeah. And that just kind of got my wheels spinning a little bit. But I also just want to say is, wait, I forgot. No, well, what I want to say is that, hearing about what, Jay did for you and the guys did for you, and, what my experience was like my junior year of high school or teams that I played for, is that I can't even tell you about a game. I can't tell you about stats. Can't tell you about really anything. I don't really remember. It's all like kind of like a blur. Yeah. But I do remember the moments, right? That has nothing to do with the game. And I think that is the number one thing that I always try to leave as a coach, is try to create these moments that I remembered, 13 years, 12, whatever years from now and forever. Those are the moments that I try to create as a coach, like just moments that they're going to take, because they're not going to remember how many points they scored. Maybe if it's like a huge game, but let's be real. You play so much as an athlete, especially with all AAU and travel ball, you don't remember every game. You don't remember all those moments, but you remember everything that you did outside the field, off the field, in the locker room, post-game, pre-game, the jokes, the laughs, those things you remember. And those are the only things that you're really going to carry with you when you're done. Yeah. And I think as coaches and as players and as leaders and this and that, those are the moments that you really want to leave as an impact on your players. And those are the things that are going to resonate to like building good chemistry and this and that. You might not realize in the moment, but every person or every team that ever made an impact on you had all off the field, off the court moments that made you feel the way you feel about the game.
Yeah.
And that's what coaches and captains should really strive for.
Yeah. No, well said. Well, that's all I got from the chemistry side. Is there anything you want to wrap up with?
No, man. I'll give steps. I'm going to give steps real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
When you want to build chemistry for a team, step 1, set them in the classroom. What are our goals, right? Write them down. 2, how are we achieving those goals? 3, what are our expectations to achieve, right? What are our expectations for the season, right? 4, how are we holding people accountable? And 5, are we ready to do all these things that we just said? You do that and you stick to it. Oh wait, and then what are our core principles for this team? What are we standing by? Right? You hit all those marks, you're gonna be good. And then and everyone holds it accountable, and you remind people constantly about your principles, about your values, of what this team is gonna be, no matter wins or losses. And you live and you lead by example as a coach. You're gonna go far. And you have some fun, make a joke or two. You're going to go far in your season, no matter what, and building team chemistry for the next year and the years after.
Yeah. You getting into your basketball season now?
Yeah. We're one game in officially, but then we had some scrimmages. So we've actually played tomorrow morning. The team is going to, I feel like this is going to be my best team chemistry year with the team, but we're definitely not the biggest as we used to be. It's a super young team, and so we're going to have to rely on chemistry. Like, the ball movement's great, but we're not tall. So I'm trying to get guys a little bit more aggressive, like not afraid to like hit somebody in the paint, get some rebounds and move. But I think I tell them, like, all this is just leading up. We don't have to be the best in the first game. We don't have to be the best in the first couple of games. We just got to make the playoffs and be the best when that counts. Yeah. Right? If we could get to the playoffs, we're the best team there, then we're going to win it all. So this is all growth from now till March. And then when March comes, now we got to start playing our best basketball. And everyone's like, yeah. I mean, we lost our first game against a team that was a good team, but we kind of started late because football ended late. So a couple practices in, they had some big boys, like 2 or 3, 6'3", 6'4" guys. Our tallest guys maybe 6'1", right? Like we're pretty small this year. And they battled. There was like moments I was like, oh my God, are we about to come back? Like, I don't know, so it was, I would like to say a good loss. I would like to say is like, they showed a lot of heart and they hustled. And I set out goals before the game. I was like, listen, I don't care what happens on the court, but the one thing that I cannot see is us getting out hustled, because that's the thing you can control.
Yeah.
So listen, you miss a shot, you miss a shot. You get a turnover, let's get better to handling the ball. But if you get out hustled on this court, I'm going to be pissed. And honestly, for the majority of the game, like they worked. So I was actually okay, and the kids were really okay. They were upset that they lost, but they were like, "Oh, we played a lot better to this team than we thought we were going to play." So it was like really encouraging.
Yeah, that's good, man. It's good. Well, hopefully I don't sound like Kanye on Through the Wire on the audio.
You're good, man.
But yeah, man, I appreciate everything that you spoke about today. For everyone who's listening, we love feedback. So if there's anything that you feel like we could do to make this podcast better, let us know. And it's gonna be a good off season. Well, good winter, because you're never in the off season. But we're gonna try to make this thing a lot more interesting, and let's try to get some more topics on.
Yeah, send in topics that you're interested with. Send in topics. We're always open. Questions, comments that you want to address. If you have a scenario or a situation, and we could kind of like talk about it as two coaches, as a mental performance coach, we could talk about it because we've probably been through it. And yeah, just we love the communication, and we love the support that we've been getting so far. It's been really great. So any feedback is great feedback.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome.
All right, bro.